everyone, this is Saber videos, and coming from your friendly neighborhood Sabretooth. Now, I've been putting through a lot of thought into the past and the future and parallel universes, and also a little bit about my future. Not right now, but sometime in the summer I'm thinking about, very simply put, I'm thinking about moving to the big city. Big city! But you'll hear more about that, closer to the summer. But in the meantime, I have a fan theory for you, which I think will interest you very, very much. Now, what if this entire time, bear with me here, what if Fallout's really the past, and Skyrim, or Tamriel in general, is the exact same planet? And I know you're thinking, what about the three moons and, swords and shields? Very simply put, what if it's a combination of, well, very simply put, the Planet of the Apes version of how the future happens by going backwards with swords and shields and stuff like that, but also kind of like the analogy they put together for a post-apocalyptic world in Aladdin. So, one of those theories. So if we combined both analogies together as one analogy, it's very simple. And you're thinking, then how did we get powers? It's very simple. And how did we get three to four moons? Possibly multiple planets outside of our Earth, henceforth Tamriel, in the future. Very simple. It has to do with base, and it has to do with Bioshock. Now, more importantly, just a little bit. Now, in Dead Space, the main original idea, was to take minerals from other planets and very much transport them because they have the technology to do it. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched for them to send 3 to 4 spaceships and they can space travel from one point of the area. They can basically, fast forward they can basically warp from one area to another. This hasn't been scientifically proven. More importantly, hasn't been scientifically made, useful or used and developed. More importantly, not yet. Although in real life, it's very possible it could happen in the future, but probably not for another 100 years or so, maybe even more. But I say at the most, the earliest, another 100 years, because as we age, we're getting more and more advanced in robotics, and using robotics, we could devise and build, very simply put, a warp gate. Henceforth, some of the other movies and, some of the other sci-fi out there have shown this. For example, and for example purposes only, although the way they do it's a little different than robotics, it can be shown through Dune. It can be shown through Star Wars. It can be shown through Dead Space, to travel from one point to another really quickly, and to be able to take other materials. Henceforth, eventually, if they got enough spaceships to tractor beam, basically hold those planets, move them to our orbits, there you go. That's how we get the other planets, or one of the 2 other moons, in the land of Tamriel, henceforth the future. Now, I know you're thinking, well, about the powers. That's easy. What if there were a few scientists from Rapture, and bear with me here, this includes a little bit of game crossing over, into this analogy. What if they took the splicing technology, but it became more genetic? In the sense, it would be a descendants that would get these powers. You yourself would get this power from, splicing, but what if there was an alternate version that was an altered version where it was more of a genes thing? So that's why you see only certain amount of spellcasters. You see a certain amount. Now, everyone in Tamriel, in my opinion, at least knows and has the genetic basic the genetic code for Well, fire. But fire is always a starter spell for, no matter what character you start out with. Which leads me to believe not all, but most individuals, all, if not most individuals have, well, magic. Henceforth, science, as we all know, we can't, severely understand. Now, what if technology, after the Fallout events, all of the Fallout games, what if technology got so advanced it couldn't advance anymore? That we actually had to go backwards to go forwards, kind of analogy. Now, what if technology got so advanced it became obsolete, we couldn't use it anymore? Like, it was so powerfully advanced that, or it got harder and harder to build and make more advanced technology to the point where, basically, scientifically put, we reached our limits, like the limit's done, and instead of taking another step forward, we can't. We're out of steps to go forward. So in order to take those steps forward, scientists around the world develop an analogy idea that we basically get rid of all guns, and we go back to swords, shields, and magic, henceforth science that's, we don't understand, that eventually would become generic for most, if not all families, but in some different ways. So that's why Skyrim and all other Elder Scrolls games, you start at least with fire or shock or some sort of magic. It doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to have it, that most would have it, or all. Now, I know it sounds kind of weird, but the more you think about it, the more that it would be possible that Temporeal is really Earth, and all of the things I've explained or said really possibly, keyword possibly, could happen. It's just a fan theory I have that, it's possible that, and I know you're thinking, well, what about the genie? For all we know, the genie was an artificial intelligence with a holographic and generating powers. In the sense, it could create and build or make anything. There's also the free wishes rule. There's a limit. Henceforth, there's a limit of how much you can do with that particular genie. Henceforth, I think that could have been more of programming, only the free wishes. That would explain a lot of things of why. There's also the rules. As we all know, there's the rules of all of this. There's the rule that you can't bring back the dead, that you can't make anyone, fall in love. You can't wish anyone to be killed. You can't force anyone to fall in love. The very simply put, an X-ray on the wish-a. No, you can't have more than 3 wishes. Henceforth, it's beyond its programming to do so. It can do most things, make anything really happen in an instant, henceforth through scientific version that's more advanced than itself, henceforth magic, and that's why genie is possible to happen in the Aladdin movie, the Disney Aladdin movie, and other genies. That's why there's kind of they can do things, but there's kind of a limit of how much they can and cannot do. It's kind of like how, in a way, the Very Odd Parents have the rules, or the rules. There's a limit of what they can and cannot do. Any kind of wish making in general, there's usually either a catch, or they can do this, but it won't be at what you think. So you gotta be very careful and you don't literally, for example, purposes only. If I wish that I was a star, I would go into outer space and die or become a star in outer space, not a movie star. So you gotta be very precise how you say and do things. You gotta be really careful how you say that and how you do that. So that's my fan theory today, that how Fallout is really the past and how Skyrim is, well, the future, and that's how all of that comes about. With a bit of crossover games of Dead Space and BioShock, mixed in there a little bit. And also possibly there could have been some Fallout scientists who discovered their own version of powers. Henceforth, Skyrim's, what they call it in Skyrim is magic, so in Tamriel in general. But what I'm trying to say and get at. Well, I really hope that you have a wonderful day. As you can see, well, I don't know if you can really because it's so bright, but outside it is, yeah. A tremendous amounts of snow here in Iowa, southern Iowa. If you live in southern Iowa, please stay indoors today. Don't really drive or go anywhere. And if you have to go somewhere, if you do go somewhere, please drive. Take it easy. Don't go fast. My other advice is always go with where you're sliding instead of against where you're sliding, because this is going to add more resistance. Also, always be a little bit, go a little bit more further away than you would of your average vehicle, giving you plenty of time to, brake and stop, because going 50 miles an hour, it takes like 1,000 feet, I believe, to come to a complete stop in most cases. Well, have a good one. I hope you have a wonderful day. And if you're not having a good day, I hope this at least brings a smile to your face.